On this episode of Thursday Thoughts, I was thinking about it today. Do you need to go to tech school? Or if you want to get into this industry, how would you get into this industry if you were young? And if I needed to, or if I know what I know now and had to start over, or started over, whatever, when I was younger, what would I do differently? So, talk about that today. Yes, I'm still drinking coffee even though it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But shout out to this Stanley. It's just like a travel cup. It's the one with the lever. As I put this coffee in there at 5:30 this morning, and it's still warm. It's not like super hot, but it's definitely not cold. Okay, back to do you need to go to tech school? So I personally didn't go to tech school. I don't really know. Might be a little bumpy because I'm on a lease road here. Like an oil well lease road. So I didn't personally go to tech school. I don't really know anybody that went to tech school. I've definitely worked with people that have went. But do you need to go? So my thoughts on that is, if you grew up working on stuff with your grandfather, your dad, your uncle, your grandmother, whatever, your aunt, you grew up like working on stuff, even if it was just like lawnmowers and tractors or cars, or nothing like major. Like a UTI or a Wyotech's probably not going to teach you anything you don't already know. I mean, yeah, you'll learn something. I'm not saying you won't learn anything, but it's probably not worth the money to go. The value that you will get back out of it is probably not worth the money. If you have no idea, if you just difference between a wrench and a ratchet, and yeah, you'll definitely learn something at a tech school, and you'd get a lot more value out of it. But just because you go to a tech school doesn't mean you know anything, really. Like, there's a lot of guys that I knew at some of the places I worked where they'd come out of tech school and they really didn't know much. They still kind of started at the bottom. They still kind of started changing oil and stuff. So you'll have a lot better understanding of maybe how things work. But my personal thoughts, if I had to do it again, I would go to Caterpillar has that program. It's called Think Big. John Deere has one too. I'm not sure what the John Deere one's called, but it's the same kind of program. So the nice thing about the CAT program is you got to get accepted, but then they provide you with a toolkit, and then you have a certain contract. Every CAT dealer is different, but the program is basically the same. They provide you with tools, and you got to work at a contract. You got to work there at so much time for you to pay the tools off, basically. But I would do that. I mean, I would try to get into like a Think Big program, which they're usually pretty limited. They usually only do a couple of guys or girls a time. So I think they do at least the cat dealer that I worked at, the last one, they did it twice a year. They would do, one time they did 3, and then another time they did 4. So they do basically 2 classes a year. So it's at the most like 8 people a year. So it's kind of hard to get into it. You really got to know a lot of stuff. And I think you have to write like an essay and all this stuff about. So there's a lot of work into it. You can't just show up and get it. And I'm not really sure how the John Deere program works, but I know a couple guys that did go through that program, and they say it's very, very similar to the CAT program. But I would try that. That would be my first route. That would be my personal first route. And if not, what I would do is I'd just go to a dealership. I'd go to an equipment dealership or whatever. If you want to work on trucks, go to a truck dealership and see if they got a program, or see if they'll put you in a program, or see what they can do, or just try to start working there. That'd be the best. That'd be my best bet, I would think, would be go to a dealership and try to get a job. Even if you don't know anything at all, then you probably wouldn't even be changing oil. You'd probably be like a parts porter or whatever, parts runner or whatever, which is fine. Just get in there, be upfront with your intentions. Don't just talk to them and take the job as, say, a parts runner and not be upfront with what you want. You know, if you go in there interviewing for a parts runner, or go in there and ask about a parts runner, say, I want to become a mechanic, I want to get into the thing, but I just want to start somewhere, I want to start working here. Be upfront with them, and there'll be, most of the time, they'd be a lot more upfront than someone's going to quit, or someone's going to get fired, or something's going to open up that they're going to have an opportunity for you to. You could always go to a union, see if they have apprenticeship programs. I know a couple of people went through the apprenticeship programs when I was in California, and that's a pretty good program. They teach you a lot of stuff. I'm not sure about the tools or anything, but definitely teach you a lot of stuff. They teach you welding and all that stuff. And then too, the nice thing I think about that particular program was, say you were really proficient in one thing, you take the test and you could pass that part of the program and not necessarily have to take the class. So some people have a lot stronger suits than others, so that might be an option if you started a little bit higher. Another good option, which might be a lot harder, but try to find a construction company that's hiring. That's a smaller outfit or something that's got the equipment you want to work on, and just be upfront with them. I don't know anything, but I want to learn, and they might be willing to help you. That might be a little bit harder though, because a lot of times they don't have the time to train people, but there are instances that you could get into that, so I would try that one. Another good one's farming. Like, farmers usually kind of want somebody that knows what they're doing too, but you might find somebody that's willing to train you, that you can work it. If you want to be in this industry as a mechanic, just as an example, you need to be around the people in the industry. You need to go there. Don't, like, I knew this guy that he wanted to be a heavy equipment mechanic. So he got a job out of high school at a pizza place. And I kept telling him, I'm like, go try to talk to people. No, I'm just waiting. Like, he was just waiting for somebody to call him. He just was perfectly fine working at this pizza place. And it's like, you can't have that attitude. If you really want to work in this industry, you need to be around people that are in the industry. So don't just get a job, some random job somewhere, and be fine with that. So don't just be complacent and just be fine with this job and somebody will call me eventually, because no one's going to call you. I mean, they might. I wouldn't say never, but you're probably not going to get a trucking company. You could try that. That's kind of where I got my big break. Was I worked at a trucking company that I didn't really know much at all. I worked at a welding shop, and then I went to this trucking company. They had concrete mixers, and they're called transfers or slip-ins. What's another word for them? It's basically like truck and trailer dump trucks. And I was like, hey, I know how to weld, but I don't really know much about anything about trucks. I have a little bit of tools and stuff, and the guy hired me. And another thing to think about too is you need tools in the industry, and tools is a whole nother topic. But if you're trying to get in at a construction company or something as like a low person on the totem pole, you need to have tools. So I'm not saying you need to spend $10,000 on the Snap-on truck, but you need to at least have the basics. And it's not as expensive as you would think. You can go get one of those 120-piece mechanics tool sets at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever they sell Craftsman nowadays, or I think Gear Wrench makes one. Everybody makes one. They're about $100, and it's sockets and ratchets. There you go. Get some wrenches, some screwdrivers. You don't need lots and lots of money. Go to check out pawn shops. Go check out flea markets. Facebook Marketplace. I don't think anybody does Craigslist anymore, but you need to have at least a little lunchbox toolbox with some basic stuff in it. That way you don't show up without anything. So if you decide not to go to tech school and you want to go try to get a job somewhere, you need to have at least a little bit of tools. That way you can show up. I mean, even take them with you on your interview. Hey man, I got my toolbox right here with me. can I do anything for you? That's what I would say. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Thursday Thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if there's any topics that I can talk about. Check out the merch store. Check out the PayPal.